Welcome back to the Old Dad Diary. I am here. Well, I'm here. What? We're back. This is going to be our second to last part of this series of Eyes Like Fire. Um, anyway, let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking about grace and discipline. Yeah. At first it's going to be grace and punishment, but grace and discipline. So with grace, there's a kind of a misdefinition of grace. We think if we stand outside the Bible, what it actually looks like when we say that someone, is given grace or anything like that, is either it's given it's a I don't say a reward, but it's a gesture, it's a nice thing or a favor given to someone once they do something wrong or do something bad. That's when it's displayed the most, as grace is displayed. Or let's say maybe you're at a job, right? And maybe you are completely underqualified for that job, and then boom, you get the job anyway. And you're like, wow, that's just grace. That's not what grace is. That's not what grace is. It's at least not completely. Grace is, according to the Bible, and is something that should be applied in general, even if you are not a believer, unmerited favor. We see grace used so many different times in scripture, especially with Paul talking about it, about Jesus dying on the cross and all this different stuff. However, it's unmerited favor. Okay, so this means you could be doing nothing and just be given something. It is literally unwarranted. It is completely based off of the sender, off of the giver. It's just what they want to do. It's what they choose to do. That's what grace is. It is unmerited favor. In the same way, it is not, you don't just get grace. No, you aren't getting grace because you did something bad. You're getting grace because that person that's giving you grace wants to give you grace. Now, specifically Jesus, he's giving you grace because he wants to give you grace. It is unmerited because even you doing something bad and then grace coming after is still a form of control of the grace. But that's not what grace is. Grace is literally, it's unwarranted, it's unmerited. It's that person just doing just so. Now, I will say, I remember I'd gotten, okay, let me slow down. There's a little bit of a misconception about, I've been told about me, that like from unbelievers, of me saying like, okay, I do these things. I want to, like, I'm trying to tell you that I'm helping the world. I'm being a light to the world because um because I want to help, because I am a light, and I'm displaying a good Christian. And usually most of the time their thought process is, or what they'll say to me is, well, you can do that without being a Christian, and there be real nobility in that. Here's the thing. I'm not looking for virtue. I'm not looking for reward. If I go to hell, I will still do the same things. If Christianity ends up not being true, we either end up being going black or not. Or I go to heaven or hell. I will still choose to do the same thing. I'm not looking for virtue. I just care about you. I just love you. Whoever that is, whoever that I get to help, whoever it is that I get to, impact, whatever it is, it's just for you. Period. That is the end of that. Anyway, but that's grace. Grace is completely dependent on the person. That's why even in the Bible it says that grace is a person. Now, a good amount of times mercy is being used. Mercy is warranted. Mercy does come when you do something bad. That's what mercy is. Grace and mercy are different. Grace is a free gift, unwarranted gift, and mercy is dependent on your actions. Now, a lot of the times there is a misconception about how mercy shows up. Mercy can absolutely just show up from in a very gentle and safe way and a very harsh way. Now, in Hebrews, whoever the writer of Hebrews is, um, it talks about how God's discipline is mercy, or it's love. That's God's discipline. He disciplines those that he loves. It's love. So, give me a second. I can find it. Ooh, there's like a whole chapter on it. Hebrews. There we go. 12. Okay. We'll get to that part in a second. My child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline, and don't give up when he corrects you. For the Lord disciplines those he loves, and he punishes each one he accepts as his child. Now, ooh, okay, dang, okay, wow, that set me up. Okay, that wasn't even part of it. Okay. Here's the thing about punishment and discipline, and this is good because I've heard a lot of Christians go, we need to give people grace when they do something bad, when they do something horrible. If I can be more specific, a pastor that was convicted of of sexually abusing a child, when that all came out, a lot of people, when I was saying that he should be going to jail as a Christian, he should be going to jail, he should be going to prison, it was very quick. Christians were very quick to say, we need to give him grace. We need to give him grace. Pause. Grace and mercy show up differently than you think. Discipline and punishment on earth is grace and mercy more than you think. Okay, let me give you an example. If a lion goes out and it kills a gazelle, right? Or it eats a rabbit, do you shoot that lion? Do you kill that lion? No. Why? Because that's who that lion is. That's how the lion was made. It was made to kill gazelles. It was made to do all of that. You don't punish the lion for doing you don't punish the lion for doing what's in its nature. In the same way, if I believe that you are not what you do, that you are more than what you do, I would punish and discipline you. Now, so this is, you don't understand that grace and mercy shows up in the discipline you get on earth, in the correction that you get on earth. Okay? So this idea of we need to give grace and mercy, you don't understand. Everything that comes in your way to correct you here on earth is grace and is mercy. It is saying that you are not what you do. Because we would not punish you for doing what is in your nature. We wouldn't do that. We may send you somewhere else if you're harming others. We may send you somewhere else, but we wouldn't punish you for doing it because it's in your nature. It's the reason why people that are mentally ill and they do some really harsh stuff, they're put into a mental facility. They have to work on their brain because that is part of who they are. They don't know what they're doing. It's just part of their instinct. They don't really get punished. Well, I don't want to say they don't get punished, but they have to be. They're a different case because that is literally that's how they're programmed. In the same way, when it says, my child, don't make light of the Lord's discipline, and don't give up when he corrects you, for the Lord disciplines those he loves. And then this part, and he punishes each one he accepts as his child. So he's calling you a child of God. Would a child of God act in the way that you are doing certain things, or that others of that pastor that molested a child for 5 years? Is that a child of God type of act? No. Discipline, correction. That's grace and mercy. If I were to allow you to stay who you are, or if I were to account to your identity, your actions, if I were to say your actions are your identity, I don't love you. I'm just accepting that's who you are. But if I believe that you are not what you do, then I would put you in a place to get you corrected. Does that make sense? Anyway. Okay? So, grace and discipline, they're not that separate. They tend to actually be very hand in hand. Okay. Anyway, dude, we're almost done. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, this might be one of my best episodes. It's very short, but I really like this. Okay, so I'm gonna go back up to the start of chapter 12 in Hebrews. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith. Now, hold on. In the past, I used to view this as the people up in heaven are cheering and looking at us and all of that different stuff. But I realized the writer of Hebrews was talking more about the world. We are literally being watched, all of our movements. So when we do things that act like the world and they're the ones that need freedom, they will believe that they're in freedom. Sorry. Whoa, that's good. So when we get so complacent and we get so comfortable doing things that the world does, and they're the ones that need freedom, they will then settle into their current state of being. But we are supposed to be separate. We're supposed to be different because we are the light of the world. Anyway, so realizing that we are actually being witnessed by the whole crowd, right? So therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. And we do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Okay, this part, real quick. This isn't even part of the thing. It says the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Do not be so hard on yourself when it comes to being in Christianity and not being perfect. Okay, let me say this though. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to be a perfect Christian. However, don't run from perfection being put into you. So if a genuine perfection is a way that you genuinely start to act, don't run from that just to relate to people. If you are, you can still be humble and have a perfection inside of you. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, understand this. You're never going to be a perfect Christian, and that's okay. And also realize that you are in covenant with God when you become a Christian. When you become a Christian, you are in covenant with God, meaning he has to uphold his end of the deal, which is perfecting your faith. That's his job. He's paving the way for you to become better. He's sanctifying you. He's making you better. So relax. Because while your job is mostly to receive, his job is mostly to give. Anyway. So as you endure this divine discipline, remember that God is treating you as his own children. Whoever heard of a child who is never disciplined by its father? If God doesn't discipline you, as he does all of his children's, it means that you are illegitimate and are not really his children at all. Now, I think there's a misconception because there's some of you that are like, oh my gosh, that conviction, or like, am I receiving enough conviction in my life? Am I yada yada? You're going to feel the discipline. So don't worry so much about, oh my gosh, am I paying enough attention to this or that? You're gonna feel it. It's not gonna be like, oh my gosh, I wonder if he tried to discipline me there. He's going to discipline you. That's it. He will. That's gonna happen. That's not like a, oh my gosh, like I have to allow his discipline to come in. No, he's going to do it. You're gonna feel it. So chill. Okay. Yeah. That's the difference between grace and discipline. Or it's not really a grace, but it's not necessarily too much of a difference, but actually the truth of the matter is they tend to go hand in hand. Anyway, that is all. This is the Old Dad Diary. See you Wednesday or whenever.